Many beginner gardeners make the same mistake when they first start growing seedlings. The moment those tiny green sprouts appear, they start feeding them stronger and stronger fertilizer, hoping to speed up growth. It seems logical. Bigger nutrients should mean bigger plants. But if you watch experienced gardeners, you'll notice they often do something completely different. Instead of reaching for a high-strength fertilizer, many of them reach for a bottle of diluted liquid seaweed. Not because they're trying to make seedlings grow faster. They're trying to help them survive, because the first few weeks of a seedling's life are often the hardest. Tiny roots, delicate stems, constant environmental changes. One mistake with watering, temperature, or transplanting can set them back for weeks. Liquid seaweed isn't a miracle product, and it certainly isn't a magic fertilizer. But when it's used correctly, many experienced gardeners consider it one of the gentlest ways to support seedlings during their most vulnerable stage. Today, we're going to look at why. We'll explain what liquid seaweed actually is, what it can and cannot do, when experienced gardeners use it, when they avoid it, and the biggest mistakes beginners make that can actually do more harm than good. Let's start with something many new gardeners don't realize. A seedling is not just a tiny version of an adult plant. It's a completely different stage of life. A mature tomato plant may have a root system stretching several feet into the soil. A seedling may only have roots a few inches long. Those tiny roots have one job: find enough water, oxygen, and nutrients to stay alive. At the same time, the plant is trying to build leaves, develop stems, produce chlorophyll, and gather enough energy from sunlight to keep growing. Everything is happening with very limited resources. That's why seedlings are incredibly easy to stress. Too much fertilizer can burn the roots. Too much water can suffocate them. Poor lighting creates weak, stretched stems. Cold temperatures slow growth. Hot temperatures increase water loss. Even moving the container can disturb delicate roots. In other words, seedlings don't need to be pushed. They need to be protected. This is one reason experienced gardeners often avoid heavy feeding early on. Worms pull material underground. Microbes slowly break everything apart. Year after year, that cycle creates incredibly rich soil. Your garden can work in a very similar way. Every time you remove organic material without replacing it, you're slowly exporting fertility from your garden. When you recycle those materials back into the garden safely, you're closing that natural loop. Instead of constantly feeding your trash can, you're feeding your soil. Over time, that steady stream of organic matter builds healthier ground that's better at holding water, supporting plant roots, and encouraging beneficial soil life. And perhaps best of all, much of this costs absolutely nothing. So what exactly is the lazy? It isn't. If you compare the nutrient numbers on the label, you'll usually notice they're surprisingly low. The amounts of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are often much smaller than what you'd find in traditional fertilizers. That's because liquid seaweed isn't designed to replace your fertilizer program. Instead, it's commonly used as what's known as a plant biostimulant. That simply means it contains natural compounds that may help plants grow and respond to stress more effectively. Depending on the product, seaweed extracts may contain trace minerals, amino acids, natural carbohydrates, and other plant compounds that researchers continue studying for their potential role in supporting plant growth. Notice the wording: may help, may support. That's important. Liquid seaweed isn't forcing growth. It's supporting the plant while the plant does the growing itself. Think of it like giving your seedlings a supportive environment rather than trying to force them into overdrive. This becomes especially valuable during one of gardening's biggest challenges: transplanting. If you've ever moved seedlings from a seed tray into larger pots or directly into the garden, you've probably seen transplant shock. Yesterday, your seedlings looked healthy. Today, they're drooping. Leaves look tired. Growth suddenly stops. Sometimes they even lose older leaves. This happens because transplanting is stressful. Even when you're careful, roots are disturbed. The environment changes. The temperature changes. The sunlight changes. The plant suddenly has to adapt to an entirely new home. During this adjustment period, seedlings often pause growth while they rebuild their root system. Experienced gardeners know this is perfectly normal. Instead of trying to force new leaf growth with strong fertilizer, many prefer using diluted liquid seaweed before transplanting or shortly afterward. Why? Because the goal isn't bigger leaves. The goal is helping the plant establish itself. A gentle soil drench before transplanting can help prepare the roots. Another light application afterward may help support recovery while the plant settles into its new environment. Again, this doesn't eliminate transplant shock. It doesn't make seedlings immune to stress. But many gardeners find it becomes one useful tool alongside careful watering, proper planting depth, and avoiding extreme weather immediately after transplanting. Speaking of roots, let's talk about why experienced gardeners seem almost obsessed with root development. Most beginners judge a plant by what they can see: big leaves, tall stems, lots of green growth. Experienced gardeners often look below the soil first, because roots determine almost everything else. Imagine two tomato seedlings. One grows taller very quickly but has a weak root system. The other stays slightly shorter while building stronger roots. A few weeks later, which one usually performs better? In many cases, it's the second one. Strong roots absorb water more efficiently. They take up nutrients more effectively. They anchor the plant better. They help the seedling recover faster after stressful weather. They're the foundation of future growth. Think of building a house. Nobody admires the foundation because it's hidden underground. But without a solid foundation, the entire structure becomes unstable. Roots work the same way. Liquid seaweed may help support root development during these early stages, giving seedlings a stronger base before rapid top growth begins. It's one reason experienced gardeners often say they're growing roots before they're growing vegetables. Now let's look at another area where liquid seaweed often gets attention: stress. Plants experience stress far more often than most people realize. A hot afternoon, a cold spring night, strong winds, missing one watering, moving seedlings outdoors, even sudden changes in humidity. Each one forces the plant to adapt. Hardening off is a perfect example. If you've ever started seedlings indoors, you know you can't simply carry them outside one sunny afternoon and leave them there all day. Indoor plants haven't experienced direct sunlight, wind, or temperature swings. Without gradual exposure, leaves can scorch, wilt, or become badly damaged. That's why gardeners slowly increase outdoor exposure over several days. Many also use diluted liquid seaweed during this transition because it may help seedlings cope with these temporary stresses. But this is also where unrealistic expectations begin. Liquid seaweed cannot solve major problems. If roots are rotting because the soil stays waterlogged, seaweed won't fix that. If your seedlings receive only 2 hours of sunlight each day, seaweed won't replace missing light. If insects are destroying leaves every night, seaweed won't stop them. If your potting mix has poor drainage, the real solution is improving the soil. Think of liquid seaweed as supportive care. It helps healthy seedlings handle normal stress more effectively. It doesn't reverse serious growing problems caused by poor conditions. Now let's talk about the mistake that catches more beginners than almost anything else: using too much. It's amazing how often gardeners think, if a little helps, more must be even better. Unfortunately, seedlings don't work that way. Young roots are extremely sensitive. Using concentrated mixtures can overwhelm delicate plants. Instead of helping, you may actually create unnecessary stress. Experienced gardeners usually do the opposite. They mix liquid seaweed weaker rather than stronger. They carefully follow the product label. Some even use half-strength solutions on very young seedlings. Why? Because seedlings don't need aggressive treatment. They respond best to gentle, consistent support. It's similar to watering. You wouldn't dump an entire watering can onto one tiny seedling every hour. Gentle care works better than extremes. Timing matters too. Applying liquid seaweed every single day usually isn't necessary. Most gardeners use it occasionally during key growth stages rather than constantly. So when should you actually use it? A good starting point is once seedlings have developed their first true leaves. Those first tiny leaves that emerge are called seed leaves or cotyledons. The next set are the true leaves. At this stage, seedlings are beginning active growth and can often benefit from gentle support. Another excellent time is shortly before transplanting. Preparing seedlings for the move can reduce some of the stress they experience. Then again, shortly after transplanting, if the plants appear mildly stressed while establishing themselves. Hardening off is another common time. As seedlings gradually adapt to outdoor conditions, some gardeners include diluted seaweed as part of that transition. It can also be useful if seedlings seem to be growing slowly, but only after you've checked the basics first. Do they have enough light? Is watering consistent? Is the temperature appropriate? Is the potting mix healthy? If all those conditions are already correct, then liquid seaweed may provide additional support. Notice what's happening here. Experienced gardeners don't use liquid seaweed first, they fix the environment first. Seaweed comes afterward as an extra tool, not the primary solution. That leads us naturally to when you shouldn't use it. This is probably just as important as knowing when you should. If seedlings are sitting in soggy soil, adding more liquid won't solve the problem. Improve drainage. Allow the soil soil to dry appropriately. If stems are collapsing from damping off disease, seaweed won't reverse the infection. If seedlings are growing long, thin, and floppy, they don't need seaweed. They need more light. Leggy seedlings are almost always asking for brighter conditions. If leaves are turning yellow, because the roots are suffocating in constantly wet soil, adding another liquid product only treats the symptom instead of the cause. If plants are badly diseased or suffering severe pest damage, focus on identifying and correcting the actual issue first. One habit separates experienced gardeners from frustrated beginners. They diagnose before they treat. Instead of asking, "What product should I add?" they ask, "Why is this happening?" That question often saves far more plants than any bottle ever could. Finally, let's talk about which seedlings commonly benefit from liquid seaweed. Tomatoes are probably one of the most popular choices. Because they're frequently transplanted, gardeners often use diluted seaweed before and after moving them into larger containers or garden beds. Peppers are another favorite. Their slower early growth means many gardeners like giving them gentle support during establishment. Cucumbers and squash grow quickly once established, but can dislike root disturbance. Supporting them during transplanting is one reason seaweed products are commonly used. Brassicas like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and kale are regularly transplanted from seed trays into the garden, making them another group where gardeners often include liquid seaweed during the transition. Many herbs, including basil, parsley, cilantro, and dill, may also benefit when transplanted carefully. Flower seedlings are another excellent example. Whether you're growing marigolds, zinnias, cosmos, petunias, or snapdragons, strong early roots often lead to healthier flowering plants later in the season. Really, any seedling that experiences transplanting or temporary environmental stress can potentially benefit from careful use of diluted liquid seaweed. But remember the key word, potentially, because every garden is different, every climate is different, every growing season is different. No single product guarantees success. The healthiest gardens are built on fundamentals: good light, healthy soil, consistent watering, and patient observation. Liquid seaweed simply fits into that larger picture. It isn't there to replace good gardening, it's there to support it. So if you're growing seedlings this season, don't think of liquid seaweed as a shortcut. Think of it as gentle encouragement during one of the most challenging stages of a plant's life. Used correctly at the right time and with realistic expectations, it can become another valuable tool that helps young plants establish strong roots, recover from transplanting, and handle everyday stress a little more confidently. And sometimes, that's exactly what a young seedling needs. Not to grow faster, but to grow stronger. I have also made a separate video on the 9 mistakes ruining your tomatoes before they even ripen. Watch this next.